Okay, has everybody got everything memorized in all 12 keys? For those of you who weren't here last time, we went through, I gave you the sheets, and we went through a big part of this outline on unorthodox techniques. I'm not sure just where we are. Oh, I know. I didn't get a copy of all those. Where are all the sheets? Could I get copies of all of those? Great. And the only reason I'm getting you to look at it is just to tie it into what we were talking about last time. We were talking about how to slide from one chord to another. And this is documentation of that. These are the fingerings you can use for at least a lot of different things that you'd want to do first. Has everybody got that one? Okay, the code here is, the thing on the left says, where it says thirds, sixths, triads, root position, and so forth. Okay, that's the structure you're going to slide if it's thirds. We're talking about something like that. Then it tells what strings you can play, the particular interval or chord on, and then it tells you what fingering will work for that, starting from the low to the high strings. It should be pretty much self-explanatory. There's some footnotes down here, the asterisks. Some of these fingerings, we talked about this last time, work not only for sliding but for doing double bends at the same time. And those are marked with a single asterisk, and then all this other stuff will be pretty much self-explanatory. The triads, I mean closed position triads. Okay, simple root position, triad, first inversion, and second inversion. Does that make sense? Does this sheet make enough sense that you could decipher it later? I'm taking these puzzled looks to mean yes. Okay. Let me put it another way. Are there any questions? Okay. Also, are there any questions concerning anything we talked about last time?
Yes, I wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't?
No, were there sheets given out?
Yeah, there were. Got a stack of them up here. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Talk to me after the... No, wait. You should have this stuff now. Okay, today I want to concentrate really on three things. One is unorthodox fingerings, which are number 12 on the outline. And if any of you had a chance to do it, you might have looked at this page and tried out some of the unorthodox fingerings I gave you last time. The second thing is harmonics. And there's no way we're going to get through all the ways to do harmonics. But you have an outline and also a lot of text here, a Lenny Bro article, and then my additions to the Lenny Bro article, which will tell you a whole lot, so I'm not too worried about that. That stuff is pretty self-explanatory. And finally, time permitting, the bass line at the same time as doing comps or doing two or three things at once. Let's look at unorthodox fingerings for a minute. Did people basically not look at these or basically look at them? What happened? All who looked at them and tried them all. I didn't look at them either. Okay. All right. Okay, this is a good area. There are a whole lot of different things that people basically never think of doing on a guitar that are really useful. One is non-standard fingerings for standard voicing. Imagine, take a simple chord like that. Most people would never think of doing it any other way. Let me know if you can't see or hear, by the way. Ah, it should be from last week. Yes, in the group that's stapled together, and it would be the last page. It's fine. And it's also number 12 in the outline on the Unorthodox Techniques, parentheses, Tricks outline. Okay. Got your video happening okay? Great. Okay, let's take a simple chord. That's a pretty simple chord. Minor 7th chord. Almost everybody in the world fingers it like this if they're playing jazz, like this if they're classical, and occasionally like this, especially if nobody showed them how to do it. Okay, but that's already an example of the fact that you can finger a lot of things in a lot of ways. And I like to extend that principle a lot further because it enables you to play things you would not be able to play otherwise. For example, if you just reverse these two fingers, using your third finger down here on the bass, and your second finger on the rest of the chord, it enables you to do this. To hold the bass still while you slide the chord up. A different thing. You're never going to get, well, in A you could get that sound with an open string, but you'll never get this sound playing the chord this way. Okay. Another example of a place where you might want to use an unorthodox fingering for that would be if you're doing a chord melody kind of thing and you want to play the chord but just alter the top note. Okay. In that case, you're using from the bottom 3, 2, 3, 4. And you're starting off on this note with 1. Notice these aren't necessarily that easy to do. One thing that makes them a lot easier is play way up on the tips of your fingers. Get right up on the tips with your fingers. Even bend over backwards a little bit. Okay? If you're doing the bass line thing, which I do all the time, you'll find yourself coming across all kinds of unorthodox fingerings or little glitches in your playing if you don't use them. So I've found that I had to develop them a lot. But I use them all the time in every kind of music. So look for opportunities to do something with the chord that you hadn't thought about using an unorthodox fingering like that. I probably gave some examples over here. Sure did. Okay. Okay, also those come up in slide fingerings. We talked about that last time. In order to slide from one chord to another, sometimes you have to use an unusual fingering. Not sure that's the one to use. There you go. You use the normal fingering for a major 7th chord, slide to a minor 7th chord. If you can cram all your fingers onto that one fret, which I'm here to tell you you can do, then you get an effect you'll never get out of a piano. Okay. Uses of left thumb. One over the top of the neck. Now, a lot of people do this instinctively, and a lot of people instinctively don't do this, and a lot of people aren't sure whether they should do it or when they should do it. And what I would suggest is if you don't do it, explore it. And if you do it, make sure you can bar. It took me years to learn how to bar because I learned how to play the guitar wrong. On the other hand, I have a thumb that'll just work great over here. I can play all day with my thumb. But there are a lot of chords that you simply couldn't play any other way. And some examples of those, especially real rich 6-string chords are on this fingering sheet. Then I'm going to get into some of the less common ones. I mentioned one of them last time, which is using, oh wait, this is a different one. Can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not. Using your thumb to get a bass note, but reaching around the front of the neck with it. This looks and feels awkward at first, but it doesn't take very long at all until you can just grab it in real time. Question, of course, is what do you do with the rest of your hand? And again, yeah, my favorite chord to do that way is the one I used as an example. Let's see. Okay. The internal or top note under the bottom of the neck. This is the one that I characterized as being somewhat subtle last time because people won't know that you're doing it. If you're like most people, you will never notice that, oh, you want to see it sideways? Which side? This side? There's the thumb. There's the thumb. You can sort of see the little tip of it waving out through there. But you can hammer on, you can do all kinds of stuff with that thumb. Okay? So just look for chords where your 4 fingers are already in use and you need some other note on top. I even slide with it and play melodies. Okay. That's bass. I think I've probably got that as an example in there too. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I've been working on and find difficult, but would be beautiful, would be to be able to bar with your thumb over the front of the neck. And I haven't done any research to find out if other people's thumbs will do it more cooperatively than mine will. But there are just a couple of chords that you just desperately wish you could get somewhere else. For me, it's this. Okay. One of the all-time beautiful chords on the guitar. And I think it's written down here. Yeah. Under these examples, it's number B3, the 3rd chord. That chord is turned into a barred chord using the thumb as a bar. Does everybody have that sheet so you know what we're talking about? A lot of these things will take a little bit of time. Yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing. If somebody finds it's real easy to bar, let me know because it'll give me hope. Okay, let's turn to a more standard one, which is the crossed bar. A lot of people already use this. This is simply when you're barring a chord, cross your fingers such that you're barring at 2 different frets. Okay? Yeah, and you're not really worried about what the notes in between are. So you're not actually barring, you're simply holding down the bottom and the top strings with 1 finger, which enables you to play, for example, a major 7th chord in the middle. Okay. And you'll probably be able to come up with a lot of uses for that. It's even possible, especially at the higher frets, to get separated by two frets. And again, examples of this stuff are down on the page. Okay, another one. Stop me if any of this either doesn't make sense or just want me to stop. Holding 2 notes with 1 finger. Real important. Not talking about a bar, but about using the tip of your finger to hold down 2 notes. This is another one of those things that people either instinctively do or they instinctively never do. And where are the examples here? I'm talking about holding it down in such a way. Ooh, Look at those. Well, I gave some hard ones as an example. Well, let's look at this one. Here you're actually holding down 3 notes with one finger. But your pinky here is not muting the strings on either side of it, which are fretted at a lower fret. Now, different people's hands work different ways. Some hands won't do this. What? No. On the high E string, you bend it. See, it bends here at the joint. Yeah, I've noticed it's about half and half. About half the people don't have a bending joint on their fingers. If you don't worry. You can always retune. There are lots of ways to get around it. But almost everybody can learn to use the tip of the finger to hit 2 different notes. Probably the most common thing people do is play chords, like play a barred chord with 3 fingers. A simple major barred chord. Okay. The first barred chord you ever learned. Play it as much as possible with the tip of your 3rd finger, holding 2 notes down at once. Although you might have to arch it over a little bit. And that leaves another finger free to do all the Hendrixisms. What I call deedlies. Or to do other things. Okay? If your finger just won't do it, a lot of people have narrow fingertips. Still have heart. It takes a while, but the fingertip does grow. In fact, if you compare the fingertips on your 2 hands and you've been playing for a while, there's a good chance that the fingertips on your left hand are a lot bigger already than the fingertips on your right. So just keep at it and it'll get there. Okay, stretch chords. This is, well, how many people have seen Alan Holdsworth play, for example? Or Johnny Smith? Those are two people who are really well known for doing this kind of thing. I just gave you some examples of things that I use. I guess for the video I should actually play them. Or can you just take a picture of this at some point?
No, it's easier for you to just play on text.
Okay.
I should do that though.
See, I don't want to give up the fact that I can't really play this stuff I wrote down. Okay, this is the Earl Clue chord. The first one's the Earl Clue chord. Everybody recognize this? That's the one that I want to be able to play like this with my thumb as a bar. Anyway, that Earl Clue plays this chord a lot. What is this one? This is on number E on the Unorthodox fingerings list. There's a bunch of fingerings there. See it? Notice that I'm not playing these chords at the nut. Let's see. In fact, my hesitations are deciding how low on the neck I can get away with playing this chord. The next one, a minor 7, sharp 11. I claim to play this chord all the time. I've never played it, but I came up with it for this. Pretty chord, dark. And, oh, here's another one. This is a good one. It's actually the same chord, just with crossed voices, which leads us right into the next topic, which is crossed voices. Notice that you can play these 2 notes either as or, and you get a very different sound in your chord depending on how you voice them. Let's see. So the last 2 chords under the stretch chord are actually the same chord. And also I give you this example, which is probably the one I would use most. A major 7th chord. The standard fingering of it would be this. It's number F on this diagram. But instead, you can play it as, even though it's the same notes, it sounds real different. And if you've started out playing anything using open strings, then you're probably well accustomed to doing this kind of thing. There are a whole lot of open string chords where you play past the 5th fret where you're naturally having some crossed voices. Okay? Comments, questions, protests? Okay. Unisons. I mentioned this last time in connection with bending, but you can actually put a unison in a chord, and it gives you a really beautiful sound. Actually, in that key, you could get 3. I think that's the first example I put here. I'm not talking about using an open string to get a unison, though. I'm talking about actually fretting a unison. Looks like it. Okay. By the way, don't just stick with the sometimes ridiculous voicings that I put here, but explore these things a little bit, and you'll find some great voicings. Harmonic chords, meaning chords incorporating harmonics on some of the notes. Here I'm talking about open string harmonics. And probably my favorite and the most common one is and I think that's the first one I put down here. Yeah, you got the idea. Okay. Okay. Now we're getting out of chords here a little bit. Changing fingers during a sustained note. I think I might have mentioned this last time too, when you're playing a melody. Being able to switch fingers if you land, if you're like most people, you don't plan that well in advance unless you've got it all worked out, and hopefully you don't. So if you're improvising any kind of chord melody work, you'll end up landing on a finger that you really wish you weren't on, because the chord you want to make is on the other side of the hand. For example, if you want to get, if you land here, and your next chord really wanted to be, and you wanted your melody to sustain through that, then you can do that. Okay? And just another one of those tricks which comes out of desperation. What else we got here? Hammering on with the first joint of your finger. I found this really useful, and I don't know how many people can do it. Again, it's one of these things like, does your finger bend back like this or like that? And it sort of divides up. How many people's fingers will bend back like that? Seems like more than half. Yeah, they don't have to bend back that far, really, to get the effect. I'm seeing a lot of fingers doing that. Okay, what I'm talking about here is something as simple as... Okay, this is one of the simple things that you learn to do early on in your career. But I'm suggesting that you do it all with hammer-ons. While holding this note with your third finger, you're changing the angle of your finger from this to this, forcibly enough to get the strings to sound. Okay? I'm telling you, I dug to the bottom of the barrel trying to put these sheets together. There's some stuff in here you're not going to use a lot. Okay. Right hand. Let's talk about right hand for a minute. Yeah? For everybody here, we're talking about right hand. Okay, bass notes. Yeah, these are just a few of the things I either use or have encountered. And at least one of these people, wow, I didn't put him down. Well, okay. I don't know why I didn't put Michael Hedges down here. Michael Hedges will be here to tell you much more than I know about this. But some of these things he probably won't tell you. So one is this. Just hitting a bass note for a chord. Solves all kinds of problems about how to get a full ending chord in F or G or anything but E, really. You pick the chord. Okay, I'm now back to the outline, and I didn't give examples of this because this is the kind of thing that if you just think about it a little bit, you'll come out with all the same things I would. Up here, I played this, which is a bar at the 12th fret, and then a C on the B string, and a G on the high E string. Then I'm coming down and grabbing an F in the bass. There are a lot of ways you can hit that. You can just experiment, hit it with your thumb. I know a guitarist who uses his chin very accurately to do that. And I tried it, and I've tried my nose and all kinds of things. Tried my teeth, but that was damaging to the guitar as well as the teeth. Obviously, that's going to be pretty much for ending chords or a slow passage. Although I have a section in a tune where I try to use it a lot. In fact, I have control over whether anybody sees this video, right? Somebody said, don't ever show unfinished work. But there's a section in a song, which I think I can remember, where I use this in the middle of something in time. Let's see if I can remember how it goes. You get the idea. Sometimes it'll sound good, maybe. But there you can actually get down here and grab a bass line, and it works. Tal Farlow. Anybody know who Tal Farlow was? Is? He still is who he was. I say was because the records I have are quite old. Tal Farlow is known for holding one note down with his right hand and playing it while he plays a chord. I've never figured out just how he strums the chord. I guess he must strum with his thumb, something like this. Okay, it's only what it looks like. It's just one note. I've heard him do it. It's really effective. Good luck making it sound pretty. I don't know how he pulls that off. Okay, I'm pretty much going to skip Van Halen because I don't know that much about what he does. But I just want to direct people, including acoustic players, to the whole technique of tapping with the right hand in the middle of, essentially playing arpeggios, 3 and 4 and 5 note arpeggios. Yeah, there are a whole lot of people now that do that. So explore it. It's a really valid technique. You'll probably, when Fred Clark comes in here, he'll probably, in fact, ask him to demonstrate all the stuff like that you can do on a classical guitar. Because most people think of these things as just electric techniques, but they're not. In fact, they're pioneered by people playing acoustic guitars. Okay, Herb Ellis. What Herb Ellis does is something that's actually really useful, which is just a rhythmic. So don't overlook the use of your guitar entirely as a drum. One time I went to see Miles Davis at Keystone Corner some years back, and he had a bunch of guitar players in the band, and one of them sat there with a guitar in his lap and did nothing more than make percussive sounds with it. And sounded pretty good. Sounded pretty good. Okay. Stanley Jordan. Oh, I skipped Alan Holdsworth. Yeah, I can't do anything Alan Holdsworth does, but he plays some amazing chords, and what I would suggest is both listen to him and go see him. But what you'll find is some absurdly stretched out stretch chords, more so than the ones that I did. I remember this one, where he's playing a stack of fifths at the same time as barring. Happened to notice that one as he was playing along one night. What I found, for those of you who don't do a lot of this, and there are people who basically aren't into really weird chords and just like to make make do with the simple ones and do the very best they can. But if you're interested in it but somewhat reluctant because it's so difficult, it really won't be so difficult for so long. I've gotten to where chords that I would never have thought I could even play, I can grab in real time real quickly now. So it just comes like anything else. I mentioned Stanley Jordan here. I can't do anything that he does. How many people have actually heard Stanley Jordan play? Oh, great. You should see this guy. In fact, do you ever show videos of him? Do you have any videos?
If anybody comes down to the varsity and requests it, I'll put it on.
There you go. Go to the new Varsity Theater in Palo Alto and request.
He'll also be there live in September or October,
Oh.
according to the agent.
Well, go see this guy.
There's an article he wrote in this place.
Yeah, that's right. He's utterly amazing. He'll just blow your mind.
It's all touch.
It's all touch. It's essentially like stick technique, although he's taken it very far on the guitar. And I can't do anything. I can barely play scale. But he can play unbelievable lines in the right hand and keep all the stuff I do normally with both hands, just with one hand going in the left hand. And it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So if you get a chance, go see Stanley Jordan. Okay, here's one you won't see a lot of places. Or for all I know, there's some hit song out now that's got that, but the last I knew, I hadn't seen it a lot, which is simply sawing on the strings with the side of a pick while you're sustaining a chord. You've got to saw at the right fret, because what's going to happen is not only will your chord ring, but the notes at the fret that you're sawing on will also ring at the same time. Yeah, actually put it over a fret. Like play an E9th chord. Here's a good one. Grab an E9th chord and then saw on the top two strings at the 12th fret. It really works, and if you're playing through an amp, it'll really give the effect of something. I'm not sure what. Okay. I mentioned Bruce Foreman here. One thing that I've seen Bruce Foreman do is, it's one of the funniest things I ever saw actually on the guitar. Bruce Foreman is an incredible jazz player. He's not into unorthodox techniques at all, except that he just pushes the standard techniques beyond what you would expect anybody to do. One time I saw him play a blues, and for one of his fills, he'd been playing these ridiculously fast bebop phrases. And for one of his fills, he just went, and that was it. So I just mentioned that. That's sort of related to the Herb Ellis thing of. In fact, I think, what?
It's a good ending.
It is a good ending. Yeah, it's a good ending chord. Okay, last time I mentioned the left-hand attack. In fact, I emphasized that as one of the most important things I'd ever come across. Flamenco techniques, there are a number of them. I don't know anything about flamenco music except what I gathered from listening to a Sabicas record one time. But that's done so well for me that I encourage you, if you're interested in unusual techniques, I guess those are usual techniques for some people, but for most of us they're probably not, to learn to do the various things that flamenco players do. And this kind of thing in particular is really useful. And there are a whole lot of different ways of doing it. Once a flamenco player sat down with me and told me, I was saying, well, I have a little trouble with that technique. And he said, well, just spend an hour a day for the next 5 years. That's all it'll take, and you'll get it. Just do that constantly. That was 5 years ago, and look. No, actually, it didn't take as long as he suggested it would in order to come up with sort of a schluck imitation that works well enough, especially on an electric guitar. The standard techniques involve hitting the strings one at a time this way, and then coming back with some part of the hand, either your thumb or with all your fingers. Yeah, as you're doing this, try not to just let your fingers sort of open up and come across the string. Try to make individual strokes with each finger as much as possible. So you want to do it very slowly at first. One finger at a time. So you get a little bit of independence. And use your pinky too. You want to start out with your pinky and then work towards the other end of your hand. And then you want to finish that off with an upstroke with your thumb or with an upstroke with some of your fingers. Okay. What I found works better on an electric guitar is exactly the opposite. All the strokes are upstrokes. And the last stroke is a downstroke. Yeah, and I'm still starting at the same end, either my pinky or my third finger. Okay. And finally, if you want to get into a pattern that'll repeat rather than just be one quick flourish, what I found is there are essentially there are 3, 4, and 6 stroke kind of rolls that you can get into, all of which are effective and all of which sound different. The one I use most of the time is what I would think of as a 3-stroke roll. Consists of a downstroke with the hand, like with 2 or 3 fingers of your hand, followed by an upstroke with this finger, which is M, your second finger, followed by an upstroke with this finger, which is I, your first finger.